Hi, it's Adia from Platinum Fund. In the previous video, we were talking about how to find investors, and now we will explore how to make deals with big companies and whether it is worth the effort. Watch till the end to avoid bad deals and get only fruitful investment relations. Every startup has to deal with big companies at some point for numerous reasons. You may be looking for a partnership, your startup may need an investment, there may be a need for marketing partnerships or a common sales campaign, a big company may want to purchase your startup or a part of it. Whatever the reason is, you need to know how to approach a big company and how to communicate with large enterprises. First of all, determine with whom you will communicate. Many startup founders believe they will cover all issues with the company's CEO or with some of the top executives. It is important to get prepared to converse with those people, but things are a bit more complex than that. This is not usually going to be the case. The chief executives of a company have a job to do, and it is usually not going to be outreach or intercompany relations. You will likely be meeting with a representative who is giving certain parameters on how far he can negotiate. You should keep this in mind when deciding which company you want to reach out to, because this isn't even the first hurdle. Big companies are hard to predict. They are relatively independent while your startup is dependent on other entities for survival. You cannot forecast what they will do or when they will do it. Even if the news says what Google is planning, there is no guarantee that Google will follow what the news says, unless you are close with the higher ups at a large company or simply are one. Always have a plan B, so don't get caught unaware. So, let's turn back. Who are you going to meeting with? Who are the people you will start talking with, and who are the people who are going to make a final decision about your startup? Well, that also isn't straightforward. It really depends on why you are there. Are you looking for marketing support? Then the marketing team will be the ones who will decide whether your startup is worth their attention. Are you interested in a collaboration? Your aim should be the sales team, because they are the ones that will weigh the pros and cons of a partnership. Do you need an investment? In this case, you have a chance to talk to top executives, but it is more likely you are meeting with the financial department, who will contribute to a final decision. A large company is composed of hundreds, thousands, if not millions of people, all working in tandem toward numerous goals, and you should have some awareness of who you will meet with to best prepare your proposals. Where can you find these people? The best option is to make useful contacts by visiting specialized events that can be found on onchainlab.ai or with the Events Today Telegram bot. You may also want to contact the big company founders directly. If this is the case, drop us a message to get a database with all their contacts. Details on how to do it are in the video description. What else impacts a big company's decision to work with your startup? Again, the answer is not so simple or straightforward. The person responsible for collaboration with your startup may have had a bad day and the decision will be negative. The department director may have had a negative experience with somebody who has the same name as you. Somebody who was making presentation slides may have used too small a font size for your startup name, and top management couldn't see it properly. Even if they liked the idea, they couldn't remember what startup offered it. You won't be able to forecast everything, so it's best to not overthink failures or rejections. The big company can study your startup for months just to say no in the end. The worst case is that they create a product similar to the one you're working on and sink your efforts in one fell swoop. On the contrary, they may meet you, learn about your startup, and decide to invest or become your partner. By partnering with a big company, you are taking a risk. Such a partnership may even kill your startup. It may hold your team back or slow your delivery time. It may distract you from the main mission. So, is it even worth relying on a big company? Remember that even with the risk involved, if you win, it may single-handedly make your startup successful. And to find the right contacts, you have to grow your professional network. It is easy to do it with onchainlab.ai, so what's the right decision for your startup? That all depends on your willingness to take risks. What can you do if these risks are too high and you are not willing to make your startup dependent on a big company? The simple answer here is to not launch startups that depends on whether or not you get a deal with a big company. There is always going to be the risk that you will never have that deal. Even if you get one, it may not work as you expect. Do you want that deal? And never relax until all is finalized. If an agreement has not been signed, the deal is not made. If you were promised funding but the money wasn't sent yet, there is no guarantee that the decision won't be changed. It's very common that a startup will walk away from a meeting with verbal guarantees and enthusiasm. But then, for whatever reason, it doesn't work out. Be prepared for that and get guarantees in writing before you start acting on them. Be patient. Big companies don't rush things. Instead, they will make you rush. They will expect you to be ready to drop everything to rush to a meeting with an executive just to find out that there is another delay. The sad fact is that this is just the reality of working with a large company with many moving parts. You are going to have to accept some inconveniences. Remember that most of the time it isn't personal. Avoid bad deals by all means. There are cases when promising startups make deals with big companies and as a result lose all perspective. If you doubt whether your startup is going to develop and achieve its aims after entering a deal, don't pursue any agreement with the big company, because if you do, they're going to expect results. Don't expect elevated interest in your startup. Big companies are interested in other big companies. They don't have time or want to follow startup updates. They may have never heard of you, of your company or your idea. It is your job to make them interested. Hire a specialist. If your aim is a deal with a big company, hire somebody who specializes in it. Business development specialists exist to pursue deals with the companies that you cannot or don't know how to reach. Don't get obsessed. Of course, talking to big companies about possible collaboration options is fine, but you should be able to lead the discussion and continue working on your product. Yes, making a good deal is beneficial for your startup, but without a product, service or workable idea, you don't even have a startup. So, you know now what deals with big companies are about and why they are not always good for a startup. Stay with us to explore how your startup can succeed. See you soon.